Alright, today we take a break from Assault from the Shadows to do another Good Stuff episode. Today is House Martell, and the deck that I've selected is Banner of the Wolf, which is pretty, I think, obvious given that this is the House and Agenda combination that recently won the Worlds Tournament. So despite me repeatedly saying that Martell is not in a great spot, they actually went ahead and won Worlds, and I believe beat Targaryen to do it. And I I guess the way that I'll explain that is I'll say Martell's not in a great spot, but I make an exception for this deck because the Wolf Banner version is just so much more ridiculous and better than any sort of Martell single faction deck in my opinion. Because you get so many cards that are just so insanely good, namely Harrenhal, Ward, Frozen Solid, and Ramsay Snow. These are the cards that really can win you the game and can totally push you over the top in games where a Martell monofaction would not have had a chance. And there are even more good start cards that I just don't have room for. You could use Bolton Flayers, you could use the Corset Brandstark. I wouldn't even mind having some 2-cost Arias that block saves. I'm not using Valar Morghulis, so I just went ahead and did the core version of Arya. I did try a more reset heavy version of this deck with Morghulis, Dohaeris, First Snow, and Double Marched. And you just end up having, it's just overkill on the resets in my experience. You end up having turns where none of your resets are particularly appealing and you would really rather be able to play something that is just going to give you some gold in a card like Close Call or something like that. So that's sort of my reasoning there. But yeah, looking at the draw deck, this is an attrition deck. You are trying to delete the opponent's board. Ideally, you counter big characters by doing Ward, March to the Wall, and Ramsay Snow, which discards them. And then you just sort of run your opponent out of stuff and grind them into the dust. It's a very lame playstyle. I would say this is the Martell deck, or possibly just in general the deck. This is the one single deck that has been done to death more than any other deck that I can think of since I've been playing. Since I started playing about a year ago, since I started playing 2nd edition, this Martell Wolf has pretty much always been a thing in one form or another. And at one point, I would say this was the dominant deck in the game, at least for online play. Again, real life always different, but whenever I would play online, and I believe Cryogen, the guy who runs the Iron Throne site, actually published a statistic of how often this deck was being played at the time. Or, I mean, shared it in the Discord, not, published. It's not in a book or something. But it was some insane amount of, how many people were playing Martell Wolf on the Iron Throne during that time. Like I said in yesterday's video, that was a pretty miserable time to be playing Thrones, but we're doing it today because this is, in my opinion, the most competitive Martell deck at the moment. And, yeah, I feel like I had another comment, but I can't remember what it was, so we'll just get into the deck. I'd say most of the characters are pretty self-explanatory, typical Martell crap. I do have these Begging Brothers. I just kind of needed one more, a few more guys to fill out the character list, and I was looking through and I really couldn't see anything that fit better than these. These are just really solid if you can get them out there with a couple gold on them. They're pretty much always really nice to have around. And they should probably find their way into more decks, to be honest, but I usually favor putting in more stuff that fits the theme of a deck rather than just random neutral counter cards like Nightmares. But for this, I legitimately was having trouble finding more characters that I actually liked, so I felt like I had room for them. Obviously, Frozen Solid, Venomous Blade, Ward, Water Gardens, Harrenhal, all the dumb stuff that you would expect. And we've got the Viperize. I know that my deck is different to some extent from the deck that won Worlds. I just glanced at that list once. I can't exactly remember what he had different from me. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like my deck's super original. Obviously, I just slapped some crap together. The typical stuff that you would expect for this deck, and we're going to see what happens. The plots we have... Exchange, I think, is questionable. Even in the few games that I've tested with this deck, I've already had people giving me Water Garden duplicates or Ariane duplicates, which are basically dead cards. But theoretically it's good because you can force them to give you Ward or, I don't know, basically any of your locations except for duplicates are always good. all of your characters are good. I don't even have reducers in here, so basically every character does something. The weakest character that I guess they can give me is the House Dane Escort, but even that's probably fine, because those guys go with March to the Wall pretty well. Long Plan is my opener. You can do Peace and Prosperity, but it's a little bit awkward. I just sort of like Long Plan a little bit more. Really, I'm not sure about this. I think this definitely could be Peace and Prosperity. But I just found that Peace and Prosperity was not quite as consistent as I would like, because I have like only 3 locations that cost exactly 2. And fairly often you're stuck with like Harrenhal or Dorne as the location that you would have to marshal to get your location discount, and it's just awkward. Then Dohaeris. We don't have Morghulis in here. Ideally, if your deck goes off, then you will get a pretty big board advantage, and you don't have any saves, so you don't actually want some Morghulis yourself. It definitely can win you games that you otherwise would have lost when the opponent gets a really fast board advantage, and there's not much else you can do about it. But it's pretty inconsistent because people very often have saves. And I'm not trying to do the whole 2-cost Arya that goes through the saves or whatever. If somebody floods out like, I don't know, some giant board with 1,000,000 saves, and they probably just got me. I'm fine with losing to that. So let's see what we can do with this deck. Should be able to derp some people out. Okay, well, we won that one. Can't say I totally blame him. Definitely not a good matchup for Free Folk, but that's what he gets for playing Free Folk, which is, I do feel that it is very much a rock, paper, scissors deck. If you're against Targaryen or this type of Martell, you probably lose. If you're against a normal deck, you probably win. So, that's Free Folk. That's what you get. Why would you play that? Seems extremely boring to me. Let's try this guy. Tyrell Summer. Well, maybe this can be an interesting matchup. I think I have to keep my setup. I don't love it, though. I have to set up Ramsay, but I'm starting with Ward in hand. It's just too good to not set it up. And I guess I'm going to set up the Begging Brother. It's most efficient, even though I really would rather be able to put him out with gold. Whatever. Well, he's sort of got one of the best setups for his deck. But we have 2 copies of Ward in hand, so the joke may be on him. We'll see what happens. Obviously, he's first. We have a Dornish fiefdom. And you're supposed to always go second with this deck, right? There are actually times when you may want to go first so that you can marshal Harrenhal before they can marshal anything, but this is not one of those times. $11 gold means he should marshal something good for me to take with Ward, like a 3-cost or something. But I may have no choice but to use it on a caretaker. 6-cost Marjorie is bad to see. But we're not Targ burned, so maybe we don't care too much about her. Basically, the only way we ever get rid of big characters is by discarding them with March and Ramsay. And that obviously doesn't trigger her. Randall Tarley, okay. Saving 5 gold. That's kind of suspicious. Either his hand is terrible or he has a high tower spy. I guess I'm going to hold off on the ward. So I have other good stuff I can marshal, and using it on a Nelt guarding caretaker. I mean, surely I can find a better target than that. Maybe I even do Harrenhal? I really like Harrenhal to stop him from ever being able to marshal Marjorie, but I really do not like the military claim that I have to eat if I do that. So let's go for a traitor. Obviously, Bastard Daughter is pretty good in this situation. So now he'll probably like not even declare any challenges would be my guess. Maybe an intrigue with Renly. Yep. No point in doing any challenges. He's just giving me gold and cards, which I will gladly accept, of course. Let's get some free cards off of his plot. Thanks, bro. Thanks, 9 reserve on my stuff. How do I have 9? Oh, Kings of Summer. That's nice. I would say I'm not favored in this matchup. He got a super duper good start. Old Town's going to give him a lot of passive power to help him get there without having to actually do challenges. But that's fine. I'm playing an incredibly lame deck. I'm fine with losing. Do I go for the intrigue? Because he could have a high tower spy, and if he does, then he can defend it. But getting 3 draws off his late summer feast would put me over reserve anyways, so we'll just go for it. Oh, it's growing strong. Sure. Basically still got a card out of his hand. So now this is one of those situations where, like, if I was doing the 5 reset plot deck, there's actually not any resets that would be great to reveal here. I guess Valar Morghulis actually would be not unreasonable, but I'm probably just going to have to go for exchange. Yeah, nothing else seems like it makes any sense. Maybe trade routes? 7 gold? I mean, my hand is really full. I really don't need the exchange at the moment, so let's just do trade routes. He did exchange. That's interesting. Maybe he's digging for bodyguards. Or like Crown of Golden Roses, but he already has a king. Probably going to have to deal with the effing king plot. Yeah, there's a bodyguard, but we're probably going to give him milk. What character do I want him to have? I mean, none of them, to be honest. I guess a Randall duplicate. Yeah, that seems like the most reasonable thing. What does... I'm going first, though, so if I give him milk, I actually can't marshal Obara. That kind of sucks. And I already gave him a Randall dupe, so he can have a bodyguard. Maybe that'll screw me. Whatever. They don't actually matter if I can get my, what do you call it? If I can get my March combos off. The bodyguards and other saves, they'll be irrelevant. So we're going for Harrenhal, 100%. Gonna try to save this to kill Marjorie if at all possible. Probably Obara. We don't have anything great to put into play with her. I might even want to go ahead and go for a ward. Let's see what we get with this. Frozen Solid is really damn good. Get that passive power out of here. Now it's between Ward and Obara. I think I have to go for Ward just to go for like a Ramsey play next turn. Not Ramsey, March. No, that doesn't really work. Because I was thinking I have Ramsey in my hand, but he's on the board. I guess we can go for like Flea Bottom, Dane Escort. This guy, sure, let's do this. Got quite a wide board over here. I gave him a juicy Valar Morghulis setup with those 2 saves. But if he wants to Valar himself, I'm totally fine with that. Since he does not have Marjorie, and ideally will never have her because of Harrenhal. Pleasure Barge, sure. Did he really need that now? Maybe his hand is still shit. There's the crown. That's tempting, but I can just do like Doharis next turn if I really need to. And she is vulnerable to the Shadow Bastard. So do I want to do Intrigue? I think my board is actually big enough that I can afford to like do Intrigue and still have stuff to defend chump challenges. Let's try it. I guess I'll use this guy. Military seems less relevant than power. I do want to be most efficient and get a challenge out of my Shadow City Bastard before sacrificing her to take the icons off of Brienne. And I'm not going to bother declaring military or power because he has Randall Tarley with the crown. I think that's good to get rid of, but I don't know that it really matters all that much. It's like, I'm not sure if I even want to use this here, but it will go into the flea bottom pile, so I might as well. One problem for me in this game is I did not draw Venomous Blade to take care of these caretakers. It would be quite a different game if I could have sniped both of these and then started just marching stuff. But since he has these to stop me from using March, I think he's pretty favored. Don't get my ward, bro. All of these cards are really good, but ward is probably the most important one. Darn. Well, I did have two of them. And this game also kind of shows the type of Tyrell deck that really killed the Martell Wolf deck. When this is what you're up against most of the time, I would say this is one of the worst matchups for Martell Wolf, and this game does show exactly why. Because, like, he's never going to run out of cards. It's just not going to happen. So are you going to be at, like, 9 power or something like that? And this hand is like, what do I even try to discard out of it? I guess Marjorie is the scariest character. I don't think it matters. Scheming Septon's really nice to get rid of. Well then, yep, 9 power. What do? I don't want to reveal Valar Doharis yet, because I haven't seen his trade routes. But I may not have a choice, because this Randall Tarley is just going to win. And it's like, what do I even do to stop that? I guess I'm going to go for exchange and try to hold off for one turn. But I think I lose this turn, and I think Valar Doharis is still not a play that would allow me to stay in the game. Yeah, that's game. I'll play it out since it's being recorded, but this is like 10,000% I'm dead. And this does show a pretty good use of, what do you call this plot? The exchange would be pretty damn good if we had any sort of chance in the game. I mean, all of these are pretty nice cards to get. But we just don't. Managed to draw all 3 wards. But his board has only ever been 1 gold characters and then 5 gold or more characters, so that is a situation where ward is actually not that good. And like, if he wasn't already guaranteed to win this turn, maybe I could do Doharis next turn and we could actually have a game. But there's no way he doesn't win this turn. Let's just ward his caretaker just to troll him. Gotcha, bro. You're screwed now. He even has the box version of Mace. That's some bad luck to run into that crap with Martell Wolf. This guy was supposed to go away with the restricted list. That didn't happen. Well, I mean, it did. I think this is literally the first time I've seen this card out of an opponent since the restricted list that put him on. Let's see, if I don't defend this, he still won't get to 15 because I don't have any to steal off my card. But let's just chump block it. Ooh, Viperize, got him. Give me that Knight of Flowers. Now I can just say unopposed and the game will be over. Very one-sided game. I definitely never had a chance to do anything here in terms of like I was never going to win this game no matter what I did. He drew basically like the perfect start and then combination of cards to get a victory against my deck. But again, that's fine. I am totally fine losing with this super lame deck. Then I guess I feel a little bad because I'm supposed to be showing like good competitive decks and I did not get to show this one actually winning a game and doing its thing. But how interesting is it really to sit here and just watch me like play ward and then march to the wall? It's not really that interesting, so I'm fine with showing a loss. And I do think this Martell Wolf deck has been able to, it was able to do well at the. This is speculation. I haven't actually looked too much into this, but if I had to guess, it was able to do well because this type of Tyrell deck does not really seem to be as much of a thing at the moment. Tyrell is not very popular, and I have not seen the Tyrell big guys coming out very often, but they are definitely sort of a counter to Martell Wolf. But yeah, I guess that is today's video. Back to Assault from the Shadows tomorrow, and those will probably be more interesting games than this one was.